We just put this PowerPoint together because it actually helps agents. I call this managing the home inspection process. And this is very, very important because if you don't manage it, that deal killer, whoever home inspector comes in there, call it whatever you want, can actually create a problem if your client is not prepared. So, what are the influences during the home inspection process that may affect your buyer? Anyone? I got to remember I got people here and here.
The influences?
Yeah, what influences your buyer during the transaction?
The attitude of the inspector.
Okay. Well, we're going bigger too. It's not just inspector.
Start out small.
Okay, there you go. The attitude of the inspector. Anybody else? I like to make it interactive instead of me just talking.
Condition of the home.
Condition of the home.
Adverse parents.
What's that?
Parents.
Ah, yeah. See, now we're thinking parents are a big influence. I might not even have that on my list. I might have to write that one down. I don't know how I would have forgotten it, but
That's a good one.
it is a big one. So,
Amount of money they have in savings
Run.
to like handle repairs.
okay, the amount of money they have in to handle repairs, if they're like spending every penny that they have on this house, right? Well,
Timing.
what's that?
Timing.
Timing?
Yep.
Okay. Well, these are the things that we put together as being influences. You got your seller disclosure, right? They're looking at that. The home inspection, of course. Verbal comments, and that could be from anyone, right? I've seen deals fall apart because of somebody walking on the sidewalk talking about the condo association being under a lawsuit with someone else. And guess what? It broke the deal up. So verbal comments can do a lot. Written report, of course, photographs, maintenance recommendations, minor imperfections with the home, major defects, things that lead to major defects such as a leaky roof or flashings, and things that hinder your ability to finance, like a FHA loan or a VA loan, and then of course major safety hazards. Those, in a nutshell, on a home inspection can influence your buyer. So you have to keep this in mind, your client's perspective. They have a lot invested both emotionally and financially. Would you all agree? And when you do more and more transactions, it's easy to forget because you've been through the process so many times that they've only gone through it once. And when they go and look at a house, they have moved in emotionally already. They have measured things. They're thinking where their kitchen table should be. They're thinking where this should be, the backyard, whatever the case may be. They have emotionally moved in this property. So therefore, they're very fragile. Anything can derail that emotion if not properly coached. Would you all agree that?
Yeah.
So, home inspection process. To protect the deal killers, okay, what do we simply do? More deals can be kept together if the process is properly managed, okay? And that involves homework on your part, okay? Do any of you here or on video, do you prepare your buyers at all for the home inspection? Or do you just say, okay, call these three guys or whatever, these are the guys I use, and tell me when the home inspection is?
You always prepare them.
Yeah.
How do you prepare your buyers?
Let them know that they're going to find defects.
That's a great start. This is their job. They will find defects. What else?
I always tell my buyers that it's just a matter of who's gonna, everything's fixable and it's just a matter of who's gonna pay to fix it, and our goal is to get the seller to fix it.
Do you just verbally tell them, or do you give them a sheet and saying this is what's going to happen?
It's something probably I talk about that particular thing while we're looking at homes where they're like, oh, I don't know about this, I don't know about this, and I'm like, there's gonna be issues with every single house, but everything in a house is fixable. It's just a matter of who's gonna pay to fix it.
Right.
So it's more like, it's not preparing for the home inspection, it's a process or it's a conversation that happens as we're looking at homes.
It has to be done. This has to be done, preparing your buyers for the home inspection, for the house that they're about to purchase. And if you don't do it, more deals will fall through. And unfortunately, There's bad home inspectors. I know that. There's bad people in every profession. But there's ways that you can damage control. And this is a great process. So if we move on here, setting expectations early with the clients, like you said, it's absolutely a necessity. And if you can provide them with some sort of even piece of paper that can show them this can work better for you. So simply put, and this is John, I believe, his favorite comment. It may not be word for word, but conflict occurs when something is different than expectations, right?
Expectations differ.
Yes, when they do differ. So the bottom line
I
is...
can't take quote. That is John C. Maxwell.
Okay. Well, that's a very, very true statement. No matter what process you're going through. You buy something, it's not what you expected, right? You're disappointed. You're upset, right? Somebody needs to fix this. Same thing. So make sure your clients have the right expectations. Home inspections are generalists, not specialists. They are not the end-all, be-all, okay? This is something you need to tell them. If a home inspector comes in there and goes, oh my God, this, and that, and the other, and something should be looked at, and he blows things out of proportion, they're not God, okay? They need to know that. This is just another door that they need to open. A professional needs to come out there and confirm that this is the issue or confirm that it's not an issue, okay? So letting them know that this is just the beginning process of opening other doors can maybe help the freakout syndrome. Educate the client to the primary purpose of the home inspection. Is the house structurally sound? These are the major things we're looking for. No material defects, major components, that is, okay? Major safety items we're going to be looking at, and basically learning the inner works of a home. I mean, that's a home inspection. So that's kind of the general parts that they should know about. It is also very important to set expectations early with the clients on what a home inspection is and what it is not, because a lot of people have misconceptions. We are a general practitioner, or I always refer to this because people can identify it or relate to it. You go to a doctor, you go to your general practitioner. The doctor, the general practitioner, sees something abnormal. He may recommend or refer you to a specialist. That specialist is going to confirm whether it's an issue or not, right? And be honest with you, if the general practitioner says you got a bump here and it may be possibly cancer, I want you to go see this guy, and then you go to the cancer doctor and they say, no, everything's fine, you don't get mad at the general practitioner for pointing it out. You're more or less relieved. This is kind of how the same thing happens. We're just asking for further evaluation on items that are called out. So it's the first step in the process. It's not the end-all, be-all. A couple other things they should keep in mind is we're looking for $2,000 repairs, not the $200 issues. Because right away, we go through around the house and we look at, some simple issues, maybe could be related to grading or anything, and your client can, depending on the client, if they're totally walking in blind, and believe me, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. The agents don't brief anything. They just say, get a home inspector. And then right away they're looking at you saying, well, does the seller fix that? Do I have to fix that? Because they're not coached as to what's happening. They don't have a process here. We're going to talk more about that. They should also know we're not looking for cosmetic issues, okay? It's not a code compliant inspection. That's a big misconception. We're not doing troubleshooting, so if something doesn't work, a home inspector is not going to be going in there tearing a furnace down to find out why it's not working. That's way beyond what we do. It just didn't respond. Yeah.
Can you back up to the it's not a code compliant thing? I feel like you guys do talk about, like, if someone has handyman plumbing that's not code compliant, or if they have they don't have something in Romex that's not code compliant. I mean, you guys do flag code compliant.
Handrail.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do flag that.
We are not, it's not a code compliant inspection, but we are familiar with code. We should not be putting code in the report. So if we see something that may not be code, we don't say, hey, this is in violation of COM 398 of the NEC. That type of stuff shouldn't be in there, even though I've seen it in home inspection reports.
But isn't it in there and say this home may be grandfathered or some, I mean, that's what I typically see. Like, you guys do flag code things that you guys know about.
But it won't be disguised as code, or it won't be reported as code.
So it won't be like a specific, this is a code violation.
Right, that
Got
should
it.
not be in it.
Okay.
Now, we see a lot of things that aren't code, and I even explain this to the client when we do our driveway presentation and kind of explain what's going on. We're not doing a code compliance inspection, but if we do see something that may not be code, we won't put it's not code. We're just going to say it's kind of a substandard installation.
Got it.
Now,
Well, a lot of other inspectors.
other inspectors don't always do that.
Or they might,
They said
I've
it could
seen
possibly be a code violation.
or handyman
that's-
wiring, or
That's-
may not have pulled a permit, or,
Right. That is our way of round of not saying it's code.
okay,
That we're kind of hinting that this doesn't look right. It probably didn't have permits pulled, which means it didn't have a code compliant inspection.
right.
My Uncle Vinny was here.
So we're not doing any cost estimates either. A lot of people think, hey, we're gonna tell you how much this is gonna cost, how much that's gonna cost. We're not gonna go into any repair suggestions because I do get asked that on home inspections as well. Hey, can we take out this main wall and put a bathroom up here? Sure, everything can be done for the right money, but that's really not our main purpose of being there. Most home inspection companies don't provide any warranties or guarantees, and they don't have to. It's it's something they have to do. It's not an insurance policy. There's no technical testing being done, which basically means that we're going through the house, not taking off panels that aren't made to be taken off. For an example, a furnace, you would take off the readily accessible panels. You wouldn't break it down into small pieces all over the floor. A home inspector doesn't have to move furniture or storage, and nothing operated that is turned off. So in this case, a fireplace. Fireplace is not turned off. Say they have the gas turned off, the pilot out. The home inspector does not have to turn it on for liability reasons. And that sometimes brings some uncertainty. And I would recommend not bringing the family. I don't know what you think. I know mom and dads are hard to prevent from coming, but it's not their house yet. I've seen people have an entourage of people come in, and that just makes it hard for everyone. They're running up and down the stairs, kids jumping on the bed, all sorts of things are happening, and it's like, this is not their house. And nowadays, with cameras everywhere, you got to be careful. So those are just some things that you can communicate with your client on how to prepare them, what a home inspection is, and then your home inspector should get into this a little bit as well. Now, to continue on with this is the most important part. Prep your clients, let them know this is not a new house, and like Roger said, they will find stuff.
Yeah.
They will, okay? This is not going to be clean. They're not going to come through the house and say, hey, everything's good, you're good to go. They're going to find something. So how do you deal with these items? You have to allow your buyer, or at least tell your buyer, you have a home inspection resolution process. Okay, this is very important because a lot of times they are looking white and going, who's fixing that? They're asking these questions within 5-10 minutes of the inspection. And it's not something that they should be worried about right now. We're just going through the entire house and then we'll pick things later. But let them know they have, or that you have a home resolution process. It makes you look more prepared and that you've been there a million times. So what does that mean? You're telling your client anything can be repaired, replaced, or negotiated, right? So what happens is the home inspector is going to go do his job. He's going to find items that are going to be good, bad, poor, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into our home inspection process, and we're going to talk about the things, or the resolution process, that is. We're going to absorb the entire inspection, okay? Don't start picking things apart within 5 minutes, because you could be talking about grading in the beginning of the inspection, but if the basement has a foundation crack that we find 2.5 hours later, that grading is not so important anymore, that we just spent all this time talking about it. So we have to absorb the entire inspection. Let them know it's not a punch list, okay? Punch lists happen when not much is found on the home inspection, because they feel they have to justify paying for this inspection. So say you got a house that's brand new. They start looking for little nicks here and there, this loose cabinet hinge. That type of stuff they're looking for, because not a whole lot other is going to be found. So if you nip that in the bud right away, that can help too. No deferred maintenance items. Tell them we're not going to get a credit on an older furnace. If it's working properly, this is not something we do a home inspection for, okay? Because a lot of people will think, well, the roof is old, I should get a credit for that. No, that's not part of the process, okay? Inexpensive repairs, anything under $200, nope, we're not talking about it. It's not even a point. Outbuilding repairs. Do you know when we do home inspections, the majority of our time putting a report together, believe it or not, is the garage, because there's usually so much wrong with a garage. A detached garage that's 80 years old, it's usually racking, it's got all sorts of things, handyman wiring, you name it. And I would just say, you know, are you buying an outbuilding or are you buying a house? This is something that, in my opinion, shouldn't even be talked about. Because it's a garage, it's 80 years old, it is doing, unless there's something completely wrong. But for the most part, stay focused off the outbuildings, just because they're neglected, and you'll find stuff all the time. Nothing cosmetic. So if, for instance, maybe there's carpet ripples, that's not something that should be discussed.
Trip hazard.
It's a trip hazard, but I don't know if I'm not going to buy this house unless this happens, right? So you prepping them for that would be a good idea. And nothing on items that they knew about with the offer to purchase, unless it is in the offer to purchase to begin with. That happens a lot. Or people tell us that house is being sold as is, as if my inspection is going to be different because of that. But just telling your client you have a resolution process makes you look more professional, makes you look like you've been there a million times, and they'll have more confidence in you. Now, before negotiating, you may want to talk or consider with your client the state of the housing market, right? How's the state now? How's the market now? If you don't buy it, somebody else will, right? Pretty much.
Very much.
So you have to consider that. Your desire or their desire for the home. Do they really, really love it, or is it just like, we're settling, you know, because we can't find a house? Other things to consider: size and cost of the repairs, or the severity of the repairs or the problems. But also, are they going to do any renovation or remodeling? Because it may put the cart in front of the horse. Why fix this if you're going to do this later, right? Or your budget. That's what you mentioned earlier. It tends to be the people who spend the less on their house are spending every penny that they have for that house, and therefore have no money for budgeting anything. How about the time on the market? Does that change your strategy a little bit? The house? It's been on the market for 6 months as opposed to 1 day?
Sure.
And then the home's history and age. These are things to consider as well. And you could talk about them with your client.
I also think you could add on there, like, if you already negotiated $15,000 off the list price of the house,
Right.
you have to keep in mind the seller's gonna be probably less likely to help with repairs.
So the
too.
offer price. Okay. Well put. You're right. Which happens a lot now, right?
Sometimes. I'm going through one right now.
Then you have options. These are the options you can tell your buyer we have. I mean, there's not many options if you just lay them out. You can ask the seller to make these repairs themselves, right? You can barter with appliances or other items in the home. You can ask for credits towards the closing. You can ask the seller to reduce the sale price to accommodate the repairs. You can back out of the deal or move forward with the deal. I mean, does anybody else have any other options? This is pretty much it's real simple when it's laid out in front of you. All right, setting expectations with the seller. This doesn't happen often. Do you guys do that if you're on the listing side of it?
Absolutely.
What do you tell them?
I tell them 99% of the time, we're back at the table negotiating.
Okay, so they're prepared for that. What else? What else do you tell them about the home inspector? This guy that's going to go through every part of your house for 3 hours. What do you tell them?
I tell them we're gonna work on looking at only defects, not cosmetic, like anything that's
The seller.
the seller.
Okay.
I'm saying, yeah, we're just looking at defects of fixing or.
Do your sellers feel uncomfortable having this person come through the house? Most of them do.
No.
They feel vulnerable that this person's coming through and going to nitpick their house apart. And
No, because, it's during the listing presentation, it's part of it.
okay,
So
all right,
it's way ahead.
all right. The reason why I ask is because there are many houses I'll knock on the door and they have no idea what's going on. And I'm not saying that's anyone here, but it happens more often than you think.
Who are you?
They may not even know the inspection's happening. That happens too.
What?
Yes. Especially if you get a lower, like a flat fee type thing and they don't do anything. we send a notification and they send it right back to us, say, you gotta contact the seller. They won't do anything for them.
Oh my God.
Well, here's something to talk about. Are they allotting any money for repairs?
I always tell my seller in Waukesha County to allow $2,000 if they don't have a radon mitigation system set, because, you know, that could be 1,000 and then there's gonna be maybe 1,000 something else. So I always tell them to budget 2,000.
Okay.
And we talk about that when they're accepting their offer price. Like, you know, don't go to your bottom line on your offer price, because the home inspection's coming up and most buyers ask for stuff.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else? Anybody else do that?
I do that.
Yeah,
Tell them they're gonna need some money.
Expect it.
Yeah.
well, and then some of that can come out of proceeds too.
Well, however it comes out.
Right.
But I'm just saying it's something, because the seller usually thinks nothing's wrong with their home.
Always.
Yeah.
It's a mansion.
Best
I've lived here
person
for
to buy.
25 years. So just letting them know that, hey, how much money are you going to put towards inspection repairs, because it's going to be coming. Also, how about putting firearms away, prescriptions, valuables? You know, the home inspector's there to do the inspection, but clients look through everything. Buyers, they're going to look in cabinets and, well, you hope nothing happens, but I mean, just take them out of temptation's way, right? How about the inspector arrives early? You tell your seller that?
Yeah, half hour minimum, all the time.
I would say 90% of the times they have no idea we're going to be there early. We can be there at 10 to 9 when the inspection's at 9, and they're going to say,
You're early.
well, I was expecting you at 9. You know, so just so you know, what's a sweet spot that home inspectors get there? What time? See, it's
30.
30 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
That's the sweet spot. That's what they're taught. 30 minutes. Inform inspector of components that are broken or not working. How many times you run a dishwasher and it's all over the floor? It happens. It happens. Access and time and length. A lot of sellers it's the first question out of their mouth. How long will you be? How long is a home inspection? I know it varies.
3.
Yeah, it's
No.
safe. It's safe. How about, this is the most valuable information you can give them too. Fix the little things. You got a drippy faucet. You have something that's not working, maybe a GFI. Because if they find it on an inspection, they usually don't want you fixing it. They want a professional at a certain hourly rate to fix it. So
Good
just
point.
fix the little things, the small things that muck up a report, right? Ensure all items are operable. That includes fireplaces, water heaters, everything. Even if they have a furnace in the garage, whatever the case may be, everything must be operable. This is also another little tip that I think buyers love, leaving receipts and updates and repairs on the counter, if they have that. It shows that somebody loved this house before them, and it really seems to hit home with buyers. Access needed everywhere. This is something that happens all the time. And if you're prepping your seller, we need access to the attic, electrical panel, you name it, sub pump, main water shutoff, crawl space. And if there's no access to it, the home inspector can simply just say, I can't get in there, I can't inspect it, and therefore your client has uncertainty about those items. Inform inspectors of any active issues. Pets are not recommended on inspections. For some reason, cats get a pass. I don't know. They always say the cats can stay, and now I have to watch the cats. And they tell the home inspector,
Don't let the cat out.
don't let the cat out. But they don't know that there's 6 other people coming. And now I have to watch the cat. And I'm not there to watch the cat. And sometimes cats get locked in closets and so on and so forth. I've actually seen a cat get stuck between the entrance door and the storm door.
What?
Yes.
Sweet.
And it's just not a good situation. Utilities turned on, of course. Alarms turned off. Has anybody gone into a house with an alarm that went off? They're extremely loud. And it can really upset things. So make sure alarms are off. Here's another little tip. This goes along with fixing little things. Replace burnt out bulbs and missing bulbs. There's a lot of people that have bulbs that are burnt out or missing in the basement, and also missing outlet covers and switch covers. For some reason, people will do some painting, and guess what? They won't put the covers on. Then the home inspector comes out there and says, oh, this is a safety hazard, when it's just a 2-second repair. So it goes along with fixing the little things. So make sure your seller is prepared for the home inspection as well as the buyer when it comes to that.
Especially if you have a direct connected fire alarm
Yes, that's a problem too.
and they don't leave the code to shut it off.
Then you're making calls, and yeah, that can upset things. And then guess what? Guide and lead the transaction. You are the leader of the transaction. You must be the leader. Lead by staying positive. Lead by being proactive. Lead by creating solutions for both parties, rather than just repeating what your clients want, which is sometimes, can be a problem. Lead by being calm and diffuse situations that may create emotional decision making and sometimes demands that are different to attain. So, for instance, when you get to the negotiating table and people are fighting back and forth, after a while, it's really not about money, is it? It's about winning. And you have to lead, and I know some agents can be difficult, some transactions can be difficult, but you have to lead by being the positive person, and that is monumental. So, for an example, your child falls and they start crying, or do they start looking at you first to see how you react to their fall to make a decision whether they should cry or not? That's the same situation. You have to lead by being proactive and as if you've been there a million times. And then focus on the property, not the personalities, especially when it comes to different types of agents, okay, or whoever's involved in the transaction. Separate real issues from the ones that are emotionally driven, because your clients are very vulnerable. Don't allow your clients to be offended, and keep everyone focused on that finish line. And then lastly, filter information. There's a lot of information going between you and other agents and other professionals. Filter that information. Protect your clients from things they really don't need to hear, okay? Like personal comments or whatever they may come up with on the situation. This will keep emotions from flaring, and the deal will move much, much smoother and hopefully to the finish line. Any questions?
Dave, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
So regarding the 30-minute early, arrival, is that something you guys do, to help you out in terms of having nobody there? You can kind of look around and inspect without anybody looking over your shoulder? Like, is that built-in time to help you be alone?
It is. There's 2 reasons why we arrive early. One is to get a jump on things on the outside without anybody watching or sitting over our shoulder. And 2, so when the buyer does pull up, we are prepared to communicate already with what we found, instead of having them watch us for the first half hour and making things stagnant.
Okay, and then the second question I have is, what would you want to tell us as agents to say or not say, or do or not do, that you have wanted to say but you didn't want to say it in front of the buyer? Like, are there stupid things that an agent can say, or
Yes.
brilliant things, or okay?
What's problematic, I think, and creates liability, is when the real estate agent underplays everything that we say. I love when the real estate agent comes in, introduces everyone, opens the door, and then sits down on the counter and does their work. You're representing everyone involved. If there's a big issue, then you get up and you go and you listen. But then you keep your comments and everything to that resolution process. Say, okay, we got this information, that's great. Act like you've seen it a million times. Don't overreact to anything. And say, okay, we can talk about that with our resolution process. That's a true professional. I can always tell when the agent is really desperate for the transaction, because they are extremely involved. They go everywhere we go, and every 5 seconds they're saying, how are things going? How are things going? And then if I mention something, they're like, oh, well, that's really not a big deal. Or it's like for instance, somebody may call our office and they book the inspection and they want radon. And then they go to their agent and say, do we really need radon? And the agent goes, no, you don't need radon in that area. I mean, that to me, that's liability. Why are you telling them they don't need a radon test unless you have a report that says they don't? But that's before the transaction. But during the transaction, my favorite realtor comes in there, represents everyone, sits at the counter, and even do their spiel. They may even prep the buyer a little bit more there and say, okay, Dave's going to do his thing, and guess what? He's going to find things, because that's what he's here for. And everything can be dealt with through our resolution process. There's always a way to fix things. And we've done it a million times, so follow Dave, get the information you need. I'll pipe in if there's big things so that I can represent you a little bit better and I know what's going on. But otherwise, I'm going to be here, and if you need me, let me know.
I usually tell them to leave you alone so
That's
they don't
awesome,
distract
thank
you.
you.
I love that too. Well, to be honest with you, the best inspection is when no one's there. I'm not going to lie,
I was
because
just gonna ask
I
you
can
that.
really focus on the house. I think every home inspector will tell you that. And there are some home inspector companies that won't allow the client to come there till the very end. I don't think it's my place to say that, so I always say, hey, if you don't want to attend inspection, if you want to attend just a portion, probably the end is a good part. So if the inspection's at 2, why don't you come around 4? So we can kind of do that now, but if somebody really wants to come on the inspection, I don't pull them off. I say, come on down, come with us, and we'll show you what you need to know.